Well, Council, I'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that. Before we call the roll, we'll go ahead and administer the oaths of office. The way we'll do that this evening is we'll have Jeff, our city recorder, do each of our new counselors and myself individually. And then we'll give all of the new counselors an opportunity to say some words if they'd like to. And then I'll round it up after that. As we both know, we all know I do like to talk, but it will be short this evening. I promise.
Not like the first time.
Yeah, shorter than the last time. Jeff, will you go ahead and get us going on the oaths, please?
Okay, Mayor. So we do have you first on the actual oaths.
Okay.
So would you please raise your right hand and repeat after me? I, Stan Pulliam, do solemnly swear.
I, Stan Pulliam, do solemnly swear
That I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States.
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States
And of the state of Oregon.
and of the state of Oregon,
And that I will, to the best of my ability,
and that I will, to the best of my ability,
faithfully perform the duties of Mayor of Sandy
faithfully perform the duties of Mayor of Sandy
during my entire term of office.
during my entire term of office.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mayor.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate that.
Next, we have Councilor Sheldon.
All right, let me get my mic adjusted as I stand up here.
Okay.
All right.
Councilor, please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Richard Sheldon, do solemnly swear
I, Richard Sheldon, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States
and of the state of Oregon,
and of the state of Oregon,
and that I will, to the best of my ability,
and that I will, to the best of my ability,
faithfully perform the duties of Sandy City Councilor
faithfully perform the duties of Sandy City Councilor
during my entire term of office.
during my entire term of office.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Councilor.
Thank you.
Next, we have Councilor Walker.
Yes.
And would you please raise your right hand and repeat after me? I, Kathleen Walker, do solemnly swear
I, Kathleen Walker, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States
that I will support the Constitution and the laws of the United States
and of the state of Oregon,
and of the state of Oregon,
and that I will, to the best of my ability,
and that I will, to the best of my ability,
faithfully perform the duties of Sandy City Councilor
faithfully perform the duties of Sandy City Councilor
during my entire term of office.
during my entire term of office.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Councilor. And finally, Councilor Hokinson. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Don Hokinson, do solemnly swear
I, Don Hokinson, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution and laws of the United States
that I will support the Constitution and the laws of the United States
and of the state of Oregon,
and of the state of Oregon,
and that I will, to the best of my ability,
and that I will, to the best of my ability,
faithfully perform the duties of Sandy City Councilor
faithfully perform the duties of Sandy City Councilor
during my entire term of office.
during my entire term of
So help me God.
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
Just give me a second.
Uh-oh.
Darn Sandy Net.
That's
Oh, no.
We're in now. Well, I have a feeling that he said it.
Oh,
you-
There
I
you
can
go.
say it. So help me God.
So help me God. Congratulations, Counselor.
Congratulations.
welcome to everybody, all three councilors. Good job.
Yes. Well, I will lend to any remarks anyone would like to make. I'll start with you, Councillor Hawkinson. Is there anything you'd like to say this evening? Councillor Hawkinson, the floor is yours if there's any remarks you would like.
Thank you. Sorry, I was just setting the desk down there.
Yeah, you're good.
All right, I would like to say a couple things. I really appreciate the oath. And as I read through it, I think it's got some important reminders. It establishes some guardrails for our city, going all the way back to our charter that's foundational to our democracy on a grand scale. And also it's provides some focus on a local scale. Our city must work within the legal limits imposed by federal and state law. It doesn't mean that we blindly accept unjust laws or rules, but rather that we unitedly work to change those laws or rules using available legal mechanisms. I look forward to working with my fellow councilors and mayor and focusing on improving the quality of life for all Sandy City residents. Cities exist for their residents, not businesses. In fact, one of the hurdles the early settlers had in trying to get Sandy organized was meeting that minimum number of 200 residents, even though the business climate was thriving at the time. While businesses are an important part of our city, they are secondary to the residents of the city. Businesses can be complementary. They provide services that are valuable. They pay taxes. They can improve the quality of life for our residents. But we have to remember that our purpose is for the residents. As a councilor, I pledge to listen, question, and judge all policies, goals, plans, programs, initiatives, and ordinances, and all other decisions of the council from the perspective of their impact on quality of life. I may not always get it right, but I do my best. Finally, just 2020 has been a difficult year for everyone, but as with most dark clouds, there is often a silver lining. For me, this has been an increased appreciation for our community, for my friends, for my neighbors, and for the natural beauty that, that surrounds us. Whether walking through the neighborhood or down Tickle Creek Trail, there's beauty all around us. And it's interesting to me as I look at that what we have is really a result of the sacrifice and the foresight that those who came long before us had. On August 11th, 1911, Sandy was incorporated. The history of Sandy and its surrounding area has been carefully curated by the Sandy Historical Society. As we approach our 110th birthday this year, I would like to see us learn more about and celebrate the people who founded our city, whose names are found on our buildings, on our streets, on our bridges, so that as we look forward to the strategic plans that we have, whether it's the comprehensive plan or the others, that if we build that bridge to the past and look forward to the future, then we can really embrace a more comprehensive idea of what Sandy style is. I mean, when we think of Sandy style, we think of this little bit of facades that go on buildings, but really it's a culture and a lifestyle that made us all want to be here. And I think we can embrace that fully, keep that tied to the past as we look forward to the current and future parks and trails and roads and homes and infrastructure and all those things that make up this wonderful Sandy, and ultimately make this a place for all of us and our families. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hawkinson. Very much appreciate those words tonight. Councillor Sheldon, is there some remarks you'd like to make?
Absolutely. Boy, it's going to be hard to follow Don's there. He brought up a lot of great points. So I guess I could start out by saying I kind of want to echo that as well. I really like the part of going back to the history as well. I think that's a super good thing. But also I want to stay by, I want to start by just saying thank you to the people that voted for me and that supported me to this election. I'm truly honored and humbled to be allowed to represent them and this community here on this council. I also want to, if anyone's listening, I really want to stress the importance and ask that you please communicate with me and the rest of the council. Your feedback and your thoughts are critical, and you guys are who we represent. And I think it's important to remember that and keep that in mind throughout the way. And I promise I will. I believe our local governments and these kind of elected governments are the cornerstone of the foundation of what I truly believe is the greatest nation in this world. And it's truly an honor to get to be a part of that. And thank you for allowing me. And to my fellow council members, I just want to let you know that I'm super excited, honored to work with each of you. I believe that like each of you and myself, we are all here to try to better this community and to make the most positive impacts we can. We may not agree on every topic, but it's important to remember that these disagreements are okay, and in fact, they're healthy. It is again, back to this, it's that elected form of government that allows our country, state, and community to evolve. And like Don just said, grow from our past, but moving on to our future. There's things that to look back to the past is great, but as we change and evolve as a society, there's things that come up that they didn't know back 100 years ago that would be issues that are today issue. Great example, sewer. So I think it's important that we keep that in mind. It also keeps us accountable to our citizens. And then as we move forward, I look forward to hearing your ideas and voicing the concerns of the citizens that have spoken to you. We have many challenges. I recognize that we have many challenges ahead, and I hope we can truly work together to navigate them and put away any past differences or biases that we may have. And I truly look forward to working with each of you and working to make Sandy a better community. So thank you all.
Thank you, Counselor. And we're super excited to work with you as well, sir. Counselor Walker.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank the city staff, the mayor, and the other city council members for your welcoming me onto the city council. I very much look forward to collaborating with you on the council and working with all of you, our staff, our businesses, and especially our residents. Together, we can review and refine our goals and policies and make decisions that will keep Sandy the special place that we call home. With that said, I'm kind of a law and order person. I worked for the government and retired from the government and thought I was kind of done with government, but I'm actually happy to be back in volunteering in government. I worked for the Forest Service for 34 years, and I believe in law and order, and I believe in and just swore to follow the laws and orders that our state and federal government put in place. I strongly believe that government is important, and that when we start picking and choosing which rules or laws to follow or who has to follow them, we lose our democracy and we diminish our respect for that government. I appreciate the efforts to date that have come along, and especially by Jeff and Jordan, to increase the transparency of our government with our residents. And I look forward to engaging more citizens to really participate in the decisions that are affecting them. As my campaign materials stated for the record, we all understand that Sandy has to grow. We cannot legally stop it even if we wanted to, which I don't, and I don't think the new counselors that join me do either. They don't want to stop it. What I was promoting and what helped, what the citizens elected me to do was to support responsible, resident-friendly growth and policies. And for every decision that we make and that I make here in the next 4 years, I want to be asking ourselves and our citizens, how does this benefit current residents? How does this decision affect our town in 20 years? And so, you know, I like what Don said before about looking back in our history, and also, you know, I've lived here 34 years and I've seen a lot of changes, and I think it's really helpful to kind of to look at how a decision that we're making today might get applied, and you know what kind of results it might affect in 20 years. So with that said, we have some challenging issues and some awesome opportunities ahead of us. I'm excited and grateful that our town residents gave me an opportunity to help carry the ball forward, and improve Sandy's future. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you for that, Councillor Walker. Really appreciate it. I'd just like to start my remarks by thanking, obviously, our city staff for all the hard work that you all put in every day. I've definitely become even more aware of that over, well, I'd say the past 2 years, but especially even this past year and everything that it's given to us. Obviously, all of our neighbors and Sandy who have entrusted me and all of our council with 4 years for some of you and an additional 2 for me. And all of you counselors, the new counselors coming on, as well as the ones that I've been able to serve with over these past 2 years. You know, when you're a new counselor like I was 2 years ago, you tend to come in with a little bit of skeptical eyes. I'm not saying that that's what any of you come in with. That was my what I came in with. And what I soon learned, and have learned with my experiences with public officials of all stripes, from the city to county to the state level, is that really, 99.9% of the time, people get into this for the right reasons. And everyone is just here to make our community a better place. We all moved here, most of us for all the same reasons. And so we should have the same linked goals and stuff as we grow this community and defend it for years to come. We, as a city council, we take over leadership of this community at a pivotal time, facing truly unprecedented challenges. But with unprecedented challenges also provides us with unprecedented opportunities. We're facing obviously a global pandemic and COVID-19. The possible decimation of our main street and the ramifications for the employees, most of which are our neighbors here in Sandy. Growth and becoming one of the fastest growing cities in the state of Oregon, and really protecting, to Councillor Hawkinson's point earlier tonight, protecting everything, our great history and culture of this community, while also having an eye to the future. Wastewater, this DEQ mandate of a $60 to $70 million project, by far the largest public infrastructure project in our community's history, sitting in front of us for us as a council to tackle. We have public safety and homelessness issues that continue to rise. Infrastructure and all of the planning that goes in from our transit master plan, our transportation plan, and as we step forward onto a master plan update for growth in this community. And then the unbelievable opportunity that we have in front of us as we're coming through this parks master plan, the recreational opportunities for our neighbors here in Sandy, and then our envisioning that we will be doing for the Sandy Community Campus. You know, Sandy has faced major challenges before. When we weren't getting adequate service from TriMet, we opted out of TriMet and created our own Sandy Transit, where we haven't raised the Sandy Transit tax in over 20 years and have increased from 4 to 30 runs on average a day in a massively larger fleet. When our neighbors weren't getting adequate access to the internet, which we have learned from our work at home nature and our virtual learning, how important the internet is to communities like ours, we came together through people like Councillor Pietzel's leadership and developed SandyNet, a high-speed broadband internet, first of its kind in the nation, really in many places in the world. Sandy led the way in that. And as I think of the great challenges that I just listed, from what we can do for our main street, what we've already started to do as a community to prop up our main street, and the focus that we can continue to put on there to make sure that those businesses and their employees continue to thrive into the future. How we've began to tackle this wastewater issue in the Sandy way, where we're looking at green alternatives and a possible wetlands that is both good for this environment and could cut the costs of the project nearly in half. As we continue to support our public safety and our outstanding police officers here in Sandy, and look for innovative ways to tackle our growing homelessness issue. I know that here in Sandy, we can get the job done. And I know we can get it done because of the teammates that I have surrounding me. Councillor Jeremy Pietzel We're going to continue to need your experience and your leadership, and probably most importantly, your heart and love for this community as we move forward. Counselor Carl Exner, we're going to need your thoughtfulness and your experience and the manner in which you lead to unite and not divide, and for us to continue to put our community and the items that we love and share and envision forward as we tackle these big problems. Counselor Lori Smallwood, we're going to need your leadership, your bluntness, how forthright you are, the experience that you have on the front lines in our community interacting with our neighbors every day, for you to report that back to council and allow us to see things that maybe we don't have the opportunity to see in our daily lives. We're going to need Counselor Kathleen Walker and your tremendous experience over, I don't even know the amount of years, 25 plus years of service to this community, unprecedented things that you've done, like the iconic Tickle Creek Trail and all the work you've done to make the park system in Sandy the spectacular park system that it is today. We're going to need that heart and passion as we look at these items for growth and represent our neighbors here. And you're going to be an important voice as we tackle all of these issues. Counselor Hawkinson, we're going to need your analytical mind and the way that you think through problems and issues. We're going to need your passionate heart for our aquatic center and for our Sandy Community Campus, and your leadership as we tackle an issue that is so important to the people in this community. And Counselor Richard Sheldon, we're going to need your blunt, straight talk, your common sense, and your love for this community, and your experiences like Counselor Smallwood of serving on the front lines and interacting with our neighbors, and the experiences that you bring forth from that. I know we're going to get the job done because I know Sandy. I grew up here. This is my hometown. And I understand that I may be outspoken on a variety of different issues. Some you may really agree with, some not so much. But please know that my heart is always in the right place. I love it here in Sandy. I returned over 10 years ago with my wife Mackenzie so that our kids could go to Sandy Mountain Festival parades, go to the same school, not the same school, but it's the same school building that I grew up in, and has a lot of the same memories and experiences I had growing up in Sandy that I cherish so much. So I look forward to the next several years of all working together, envisioning together, putting our community first together. Let's get these big things done, and let's do it in the Sandy way. Thank you all for joining me and for your public service. All right, with that, now I got to pull up this agenda here. Jeff, will you please call the roll?
That's Counselor Pietzold.
Here.
Counselor Smallwood.
Here.
Counselor Sheldon.
Here.
Counselor Walker.
Here.
Counselor Exner.
Here.
Counselor Hokinson.
Here.
Mayor Pulliam.
Here. Thank you. I'm looking for any changes to the agenda tonight. Seeing none, we'll move forward to public comment. The council welcomes.
Excuse me. Sorry, I didn't unmute fast enough.
I'm sorry.
I would like to suggest a change. And I would like to make a motion to consider changing the agenda to add an item on there about, and this was kind of a result of some of the messages that emails and stuff that I read this afternoon, about having the city council have come out with a policy about our position as a city council on supporting our businesses and following the state orders. I make a motion that we have a discussion about that and a vote on that.
I know that was an item that Councilor Exner was planning on bringing up to put on our agenda for our next meeting. We haven't actually had this happen at a meeting yet before, Kathleen, where we've had a change to the agenda. So can you walk me through, David, kind of the proper deal on this?
Sure. Yeah. So I think any member of the council, and congratulations to all of you new members, is able at this point to suggest a change to the agenda, to add something if they want to pull something out if they want to. And I think Councillor Walker is correct in terms of sort of phrasing it as a motion. It may be helpful to get a little more specificity to the extent you can about what that would look like. Normally, maybe this is just more in the nature of best practice. Before there would be a vote on something, particularly something that might involve specifics about state law, how that relates to the city's charter or ordinances, we'd have something kind of written out so everybody kind of knows the contours of that. Doesn't have to be that way, but that's just, I think, generally historically how it's been done. And as I said, it makes that discussion, I think, a lot more productive. And so in that case, usually that would be something you talk about tonight and maybe give direction to staff based on the discussion that's been had about bringing something back to you. But frankly, that's really your choice. So I think.
For Exner, yeah.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I think having a little more discussion now about what that would look like, and then if there's a second for the motion, obviously that would be a decision the council would make to either add that to the agenda or not add it tonight, and perhaps add it at a subsequent meeting.
Councilor Exner?
I don't think this is appropriate for us to have the discussion since we're just talking about the agenda at this point, but I was going to make the suggestion that we put it on the agenda for the following meeting because of the need for us to think it through and make sure we have all the points established. So I would suggest, I'm not going to make a second to Ms. Walker's motion, but I would suggest that we put it on the agenda for a discussion item and be able to figure out what we want to do with it.
I think I appreciate those comments, Carl, and I appreciate your willingness to kind of want to add this onto the next meeting's agenda. I think the concern that I have is that things are moving really fast, and our reputation is being talked about and not in a positive manner to some extent. Some people think it is positive, and so I guess pardon?
Many think it's positive.
I appreciate that, but I mean, what I think it's, we just took an oath to uphold the state's laws and orders, and so I feel like it's, it's kind of surprising that we should have to kind of, discuss whether or not we're actually going to come out on a position to do that, because we just swore that we would. But I think it's really important that we do take, have a discussion about it tonight, because there's just been so much national coverage, and the concern I really have is for our reputation with all those state and county partners that we have to work with. They have a tremendous amount of power and authority over us, and we look to them for a lot of support, both financially and professionally. And so I am concerned that there's this perception by our, by those partners that Sandy is kind of poking a bear or challenging authority or whatever. So I guess that's why I made the motion. I want to have the discussion so that we can kind of try to get what our actual city council position is out to our residents and to the partners that we work closely with.
Thank you. Councilor Exner and then Councilor Smallwood.
Yeah, I don't feel like we have the preparation tonight to be able to discuss it intelligently. I think that tonight is more for about putting it maybe on a discussion item for the next meeting. There's an awful lot of details in what Ms. Walker went through. Like I said, my intention tonight was to have a suggestion and a ask to put it on the agenda so that we have time to intelligently talk about. I don't think we're in an emergency mode that we have to make decisions tonight. I think that we should talk about it, but I disagree that we should have it as a decision tonight.
Thank you. Councilor Smallwood.
Yeah, I'm going to support Councilor Exner in this one. It's I'd rather come to this with a little better train of thought and not from a position of hearsay. I also want to clarify that there's no laws being broken. It's guidelines and mandates. So there's a big difference.
Thank you, Councilor. There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? I see a comment, Councilor Sheldon.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my mute was stuck. So I think for one, I want to second Kathleen's thing. And the second piece of that is I want to also add that this has been going on for a fair amount of time now. And I think a fair amount of opinions have already been thought about and formed on counselors' parts. And well, I don't know if we necessarily need to make a decision tonight. I think I would be comfortable waiting for a decision later on. I don't want to close that door yet, but I do think it is something that we need to discuss and to start to build a conversation and a record of.
No objection to that. Councilor Peetzold.
So I guess my question would be, is the recommendation to put on the agenda to make a position for the council at this meeting, or to discuss the topic and then have a decision at a later date? Because I guess that's where I'm confused at, because I guess coming out of the blue, it'd be very hard to make a decision on anything without having facts and numbers and things like this, or what we're going to talk about. So I think what I'm hearing, though, Kathleen, is you wanted to have the agenda put on, or the topic put on the agenda to discuss, not necessarily come out of the other end of it with a decision to go whatever direction that the council decided to vote on. Is that what I'm hearing that the motion is? Is that for a discussion or a decision on that?
Jeremy, thank you for kind of exploring that a little more with me. I appreciate that. For me, I think that for me, the decision that I'm asking the council to make tonight is to validate the oath that they just took, and that our position is to support the state laws, orders, and policies that have been handed down to us, and that we don't have the ability to not follow, the legal ability to not follow. That's all I'm asking, is that our position is that we're going to encourage our residents and our businesses to follow state law. That's it. Now, that said, I think there's a lot of discussion that we could have at the next meeting that we could prepare for, to explore other avenues that we have to help out our businesses and our restaurants and our residents, to kind of help weather the storm and, you know, continue to provide support to them, and but also, you know, stay in our lane. So.
Thank you, Councilor. I see Councilor Hawkinson with his hand up.
Yeah, I just concerned here that the motion was to add an agenda item, and I feel like we're well into the discussion, perhaps. And as a point of order, I think we should either roll on the motion and move on and add it to the agenda, or hit the agenda. Otherwise, this could be a really long meeting.
Yeah. I see it. I'll go to Councilor. Well, I'll go to David, and then I'll go to Councilor Peetzold.
I was just going to briefly follow up with Councilor Hawkinson's point that there is a motion in a second, so it should be voted on. I think the other thing everybody can consider when voting is basically, you know, whether you get to a decision point or not, it's still going to take a second motion to do that. Right. And so, you know, largely, I think you're looking at adding an item to the agenda that is for discussion purposes, and based on that discussion, you may have a decision that you would entertain, you may not.
So I guess what's Kathleen, Councilor Walker, so what's the agenda topic? It's COVID-19 and our city's position on that.
You're muted.
Sorry, you're muted right now.
Thank you. Can you ask your question again, please? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I guess what are we listing it as? Just a conversation on COVID-19 and our city's position on that, and then of course we can take the discussion where it goes from there. Is that what I'm just trying to figure out what exactly we're voting on, right?
Thank you. I believe, and I'm open to, you know, if somebody wants to edit this a little bit, but I believe my motion is to ask that we as a city council clearly state our support or not support of following the governor's orders for the restrictions that are in place.
Yeah, okay, I'm fine with that. Is your second go along with that, Counselor Sheldon?
Does, yes.
Okay, thank you. We'll go ahead and go for a vote. We'll go for a roll call vote, please. Jeff?
Counselor Pietzold,
Yes.
Counselor Smallwood,
No.
Counselor Sheldon,
Yes.
Counselor Walker,
Yes.
Counselor Exner,
No.
Counselor Hokinson,
Yes.
Mayor Pulliam.
Well, we're at 4 yeses, so I'll go yes. Fine.
Okay, that's 5 yeses and 2 noes.
Well, again, David, I've never done this, so where on the agenda is it?
Yeah, I was just going to say, Mayor. So I think at this point, normally what would happen is you and City Manager Jordan would kind of, talk about where you'd want to put that. But frankly, it's up to you where you'd want to slide it in. I would, suggest. Let me get back to the agenda here.
I mean, fortunately, it's a pretty light agenda.
Yeah.
Under the new business category, I'd see this as probably new business.
Yeah,
if you want.
let's just, sorry to interrupt. Let's just put it as the final item under new business.
I think that makes sense.
Okay. All right. Any other changes to tonight's agenda? Okay. So with that, we'll go to public comment. The council welcomes your comments at this time. You can find the instructions on the agenda, but if you're participating online, click the raised hand button and wait to be recognized. If you're participating via telephone, dial *9 to raise your hand and wait to be recognized. Jeff.
Okay, Mayor. So I'll just take a look at the list of attendees for any raised hands. And Mayor, I do not see any raised hands.
All right, thank you, Jeff. With that, we'll move forward to the consent agenda. I do see old meeting minutes on that agenda, David. Does our newer counselors need to abstain?
That's the wisdom, is to have them abstain. The only exception would be if you ran into an issue where you needed to have a quorum to pass it. It could be with that caveat for the record. But otherwise, yes, I would suggest they abstain since they weren't part of the meeting.
Okay, all 3 counselors, are you okay with abstaining on this one? All right, thank you. All right, so do I have a motion to pass the consent agenda?
I move it.
Can I ask that we pull that city council meeting minutes out, and then the rest can vote on, everybody can vote on the rest of the consent agenda?
Correct. It could be just the minutes that come out, have that as a separate vote. And then the other 2 items, the lease agreement and the election, could be voted on separately. It could all be treated as consent agenda items. That's not a problem, but the minutes would be voted on separately.
All right, then I will make a motion that we pass the meeting notes only of the last council meeting.
I'll second that.
There's a motion from Counselor Exner and a second from Counselor Pietzold with 3 abstaining counselors that we pass the meeting minutes from the last meeting. All those counselors in favor signify by saying aye or give me a thumbs up.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay, or thumbs down. Motion carries. All right, now we'll move on to the rest of the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we approve the rest of the consent agenda.
I need a second.
And I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion from Counselor Pietzold and a second from Counselor Exner that we pass the remainder of the consent agenda. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye or give me a thumbs up.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, a nay or a thumbs down. Consent agenda, the consent agenda passes. So with that, we move on to new business, election of our council president. Is there any nominations? Counselor Exner.
I nominate Councilor Jeremy Pietzold for president.
I second it.
There's a motion and a second. Great. Is there any other nominations? All right. Well, we have a motion and a second that Councilor Jeremy Peetzold becomes our ongoing council president. All those in favor signify by saying aye or give me a thumbs up. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, a nay or a thumbs down. Motion carries. Congratulations, Council President Jeremy Peetzold.
Thank you, and I will hope not to tear up here because, you know, from the last meeting, I do that a lot. So just beware. No, just thank you very much for your confidence in me. Yeah, I just love helping the city out. So I appreciate your vote. Thank you.
We appreciate your continued service, Councilor, Council President. With that, we'll move forward to Parks and Trails Advisory Board appointments. Jordan, do you want to kick us off on that conversation?
Sure. I'll introduce Sarah Richardson, Recreation Manager with Community Services Department. She'll give a brief rundown of the process and the proposal recommendation for the appointments for our new Parks and Trail Advisory Board members. And I'll just add congratulations to all the new counselors while I'm speaking, but also thank you for many years of service to Counselor Walker, who is one of the members that a new member will be replacing on the Parks Board. Don Robertson is the current Parks and Trails Advisory Board Chair. I believe he is in attendance as well. But I'll go ahead and hand it off to Sarah to go ahead and give you the overview.
All right, thank you, Jordan. Good evening, Council. Congratulations, everyone. This should be pretty brief. The Parks and Trails Advisory Board had 3 seats that expired on December 31st and one seat that had been vacant for quite some time that is set to expire December 31st of 2021. We solicited applications and held interviews on December 21st, and the interview panel submitted their recommendations, and they are part of the staff report. I can read those if you'd like. Okay, I'll go ahead. So the interview panel has recommended Rachel Stevens, Sarah Schwartz, David Brames, and Will Toogood to those seats.
Wonderful. Councilor Exner.
Just as a real short comment, I participated in the interviews and I was very pleased with the candidates that were selected. I think it's going to be a good mix of folks, and I look forward to hearing some good words from them as we go through some really important times, the master plan and many other things that are on our list of things to do. So congratulations. Thanks for the list of things that happened there, Sarah, of all the people you encouraged to get there.
Thank you, Councilor Smallwood, and then Peetzold.
Yeah, so having also participated with Councilor Exner and Don Robertson in the interview process for those individuals, one of the nice takeaways I think of this group is going to be that it's a very diverse group. One of the things that's been missing on the parks is people who have young kids who are interested in those in the kids parks and some of that. And so this group is going to bring that piece, as well as, you know, the trail piece and the sports fields and sport courts, Jeremy. So it's a really well-rounded group of individuals. I look forward to working with them. So
thank you, Councilor Peetzold.
Yeah, I just, you know, I wasn't part of the interview committee at all, but just reading the staff report and the bios in that, I'm excited. I mean, just like Kathleen had been our longest serving member from the very beginning and started this board on there. But I got to represent the council on the board for many years and came to really love the Parks Board. But one of the exciting things I read in here was what Lori had mentioned there about some of the younger families and the diversity of that aspect of it, because I didn't come to appreciate our parks and our trails as much as when I had kids, and how much more important those things were to me. And then understanding that as I got married and had kids and that, and I look at these and I see new, fresh, I don't want to fresh blood and the fact that new ideas with, and I look at that whole board now, and none of them were the same people I was on as a representative when I represented the council on that as well. So I know in the past it's been very hard to sometimes get people to apply for the Parks Board or some other boards as well. So very excited about this. So thanks.
Thank you, Counselor. With that, we can entertain a motion.
I make a motion, and I just had it in front of me before because it's in the notes, right? Can somebody, I make a motion that we approve the proposed park board members, and I will defer to Sarah's list of names for them for their new terms on the Parks Board. And I appreciate their volunteering to kind of carry the torch for us all.
Thank you, Counselor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion by Counselor Walker, a second by Counselor Exner. All those in favor signify by saying aye or give me a thumbs up.
Aye.
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 Against, a thumbs down or a nay. Motion carries. Congratulations and thank you to all for your commitment and public service to our community. I know that we all thank you.
And I see
So with
Don's on there too. Just want to recognize that he showed up there. So.
Yes, Don. Hello. I just saw you there myself.
Before you go, I just.
Oops, you muted yourself, Don.
Don, you started
sorry about
talking.
How's that? Better?
There you go. Yep.
So before you go, I do want to do a special thanks to our outgoing members, Michael Weinberg and Susan Drew, both spent many years working for the benefit of Sandy Parks and Recreation, along with Kathleen Walker, and congratulate Kathleen on her jump from, shall we say, the junior varsity up to the varsity. It's great to see her up there and doing great. And I look forward to working with the new members. You know, as was mentioned, it's great to have, you know, new members, new insight, and folks that have children as opposed to just folks that maybe have grandchildren. So I'm excited to move forward with completing that master plan. I'm excited to bring forward a draft pesticide application policy that we recently completed for your consideration, and excited to help improve the livability and continue ensuring that our community grows as a community, not just individual citizens. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Don. Appreciate it. All right, with that, we'll move on to the next item under new business, which is the newer addition to our agenda, the COVID-19 discussion and our city's response to that. Councilor Walker, I will let you get us started.
Well, I appreciate everybody's strong and passionate thoughts on all that's kind of happened in the last few weeks. The thing that has been concerning to me, as I said originally, is that, you know, our state and national government is very partisan, and that's difficult. And for now, you know, like it or not, there's one party in play here in Oregon that has a lot of, you know, is setting the rules and the laws. And as I said, we depend on our county and our state and our federal officials moving forward with this DEQ, you know, the sewer treatment plant, the water treatment plant, the grants that we want to get for our parks and trails master plan, the, you know, the OL liquor control board that goes around and permits our businesses, and health departments. And there's just so many different agents, state agencies and county agencies that we interact with and that we kind of depend on to support us and deliver our services. And again, economic support. And it's really difficult to know whether, you know, somebody, you know, I can imagine that, and I could kind of tell with the statement that was made that they didn't appreciate Sandy's, you know, kind of standing up and defying those orders or questioning that, and pointed out that we didn't have the authority to do that. And regardless of anybody's intention to only be speaking for themselves, it was quite clear to everybody that it was, the city of Sandy was being represented. It wasn't just an individual that happened to live in Sandy. And so I'm really concerned about the long-term impacts to our reputation and our relationships, because those relationships and partnerships with those agencies are important, and we need them more than they need us. That's the sad fact. And so I really want to make sure that, we don't have, I can certainly, agree with the comments that, they don't make sense, they should be open or whatever. I can certainly agree with some of that, but the fact is that we are risking, those businesses will risk their liquor license. They will be getting shut down and being fined. And I don't want that for them. I don't want that. I don't want the, OLCC person to, have an axe to grind when they come to Sandy to check up on us. I don't want the DEQ to have I don't want anybody to have an axe to grind with Sandy because we've made ourselves a reputation for, defying authority and things like that. So I think it's important that I took an oath tonight to, follow the state laws and orders. And I just want us to go on the record that the orders that are in place are something that we are, that we support as a council, because we just took an oath of office to support those. And then, like I said, I think it's a great idea, Carl, for us to and Lori, for us to go to the next meeting and start, plowing new ground on what more we can do to help our businesses within our legal authority. I really like that idea.
Okay, I'd like to thank you. First of all, thank you for those remarks, Councillor Walker. I would like to start, and I see that Councillor Exner does have his hand up. A couple of items. First is, I'll start with the oath of office. I'm getting a lot of background noise. Everybody can maybe mute real quick, and then I'll, of course, recognize people for after. So first on the oath of office. Our first oath is to the United States Constitution, first and foremost, and then to state laws. Additionally, I would argue that nobody is talking about breaking any ORS. There's no state law that's been passed by the state legislature and signed into law by the governor. Essentially, what's being talked about are these mandates, these edicts that are undemocratic, that have not come out of any kind of electoral process of a representative body representing the people, signed by the chief executive. Second, I would say is I've been very clear that I talk for myself. My open letters to the governor have all indicated that I speak on behalf of myself as mayor of the city of Sandy. And that's right, mayor of the city of Sandy. There's a lot of councilor-elects on here, and I congratulate all of you in your victories, but not one took on the mayor. Not one stepped up to take on the mayor to lead this community. That was me that stepped up into that role and was running for re-election after winning a hotly contested election against a 4-term incumbent. And so I am the elected mayor of the city of Sandy, and I'm proud of that position. And I speak as authority from that position. Now, I don't lose my First Amendment rights when I am elected to mayor. In fact, it is talked about quite often when people talk about the role of a mayor compared to that of city councilors, that mayor is really a position of the council. We get one vote, just like everybody else on this council. The only difference in the position of mayor is really that of leadership and the bully pulpit. And that was a big reason I ran for the position of mayor. And if people want to have that bully pulpit and that leadership responsibility and position, they should certainly run for the position of mayor. I'll tell you, you end up getting blamed for council decisions individually, and you also end up getting some accolades individually as well that were part of a team position. It's not necessarily fun, but it's certainly rewarding. So, this began for me was not as, well, it started with people wanting to talk to their mayor, but was really supporting our neighbors. It was talked about that our businesses are kind of secondary to our citizens, our neighbors. And I would agree that our neighbors are first and foremost, but our Main Street is our heart and our soul of our community. And they employ many of our neighbors. Many of our neighbors make their mortgage payments and put food on the plates of their tables because of the jobs that they have, that these Main Street small businesses help provide them. So that's been me. I've been in a strong leadership position on this. I've tried to be clear of me speaking on myself and not representing that of the collective feelings of our Sandy City Council. And I am proud of the moves that I have made to stand up to this governor, really the hardships that she's on. It's been mentioned that we're worried about fines that could be imposed onto these Main Street business owners. And the truth is that this was never about businesses that are fortunate enough to be able to continue on. This has always been a movement about businesses that don't have a choice, whose essential choice is to either go against the governor's mandate and to open their doors, or to lose their entire livelihoods, everything they've worked for, and to watch our employees continue to suffer into the future. Through the holidays, I've heard of many of these employees only receiving, the ones that receive their unemployment, only receiving $125 a week. I've heard continued reports from restaurant workers who've worked at many of these restaurants that opened over the weekend that the average tip was in the vicinity of between $60 and $100. Pretty big deal for these neighbors. So that's where I'm at on it. I think we all know where I would vote, which is fine on any kind of a movement on something like this. I would also remind people that when it comes to getting money, you can talk to Councilors Exner and Smallwood and Peasel. I don't know if anyone's been more successful in this community going out and being able to leverage some money and stuff in the amounts of dollars that we've been able to in the short amount of time this last couple of years. And a lot of it is because of relationships and networks that I've been able to build. I would point that even in the middle of a public back and forth, that Commissioner Jim Bernard, past Commissioner Jim Bernard, and I were able to exchange very kind words over the weekend. So there are definitely relationships that go beyond just, civil disagreements over certain items. With that, I saw Councilor Exner's hand up.
Hopefully I'm unmuted here and I can make my conversation. I appreciate, Kathleen, your desire to jump in there, because it was one of the things that I wanted to discuss tonight. A little different format maybe, but certainly it is a big issue on my mind. I think all of us have been aware of all of the public comments that have kind of come through a few weeks. And I think that's really something that when you have a large number of folks who are commenting both positively and negatively on this whole situation, that it means that our citizens are certainly interested in this situation. And I think one of the things that I took away, whether you're on the pro side or the con side or someplace in between or off on the third dimension, is that I think that our citizens, we're looking for the leaders in this community. And I'm speaking of the councilors here, duly elected, people who have spent energies trying to figure out the issues and what folks are thinking about, and asking us to come up with some sort of statement of where we stand, rather than just hopefully that it will go away or that some sort of comment will be made by some individual that might lead us down a path we may not want to go. I think it's really incumbent on us to be able to make some wise, thought out, legal statement that reflects what the council would like to say. And I think that that's really crucial for us. So I think with all that going on and the fact that the media has built us up as one sort of city, which I don't believe is the kind of city that we are. I think that there are things that we need to reply to. I think there are things about the governor's order, me personally, that are just over the top. I think that there are real big concerns about our businesses. And I think there are some things that we could do differently. But all in all, I still think it's crucial that if the council is actually our leaders, and I listened to the conversations tonight from the new councils, the new leaders of our community, that you take this seriously. I think it's important that we do make some sort of statement that described where we stand. And there may be that we can't come up with a consensus of what we want to say. That too is a message, because I know this is a kind of a divided situation here. But I do think it takes some thought. I think it takes some conversation. And I think it takes some preparation to at least put out those statements that need to be considered. Some of those statements should relate to our response to the media. Some of those statements could respond to the what we want our mayor, our representative, to stay in front of those meetings and those situations where he's asked those kinds of questions. It could make those statements. I think it could respond to the way the governor's orders are and how we believe those could or could not be responded to in our city's work. I believe that we are here to obey the rules and the laws. I appreciate that from Councilor Walker. I am a law and order guy. I think that if it's the law, I may not like it, and I will work all my can to change it if I believe it's wrong. But until it's proven wrong, it's the law. We can't disobey it. And I know there's some argument about whether or not it's voted on by the legislature, by whether or not it's voted on by the people or a governor order. I know that there's kinds of conversations. We can get into that later on. But I do believe that we need to make a consensus statement by this council that describes where our position is so that our citizens can take that lead and that we can be described as the kind of city that we want to be described as. That cannot be done in a quick conversation tonight. I believe we need to have some preparation, put it together, present it, have all the councilors that they wish to present their sides to it and come up with a statement that describes what we want to say. I know Kathleen Walker's talked about making a statement that we should follow the laws. I think it's crucial that we do follow the laws. But what laws? And what do we consider, and what are the laws? I think it's important that we know what we're talking about. So with that, I think I want to ask that we put the agenda for the next council meeting, a portion of that meeting set aside, whether it's a workshop and a council meeting or a combination of the both, to discuss this and come up with a statement for the citizens and folks that look at us. Because we are a leader of the community. You look around at the folks on the mountain, some of the other cities, the villages that are around us, they look to us for leadership, and we should provide that. So that's my request. I want to leave tonight here with that kind of either somebody tells me that they don't want to put that on the list, or that we will do that for the next council meeting so that we can discuss this and come up with a correctly described and well thought out statement about where we want to go from here. So
thank you, Councilor. I saw Councilor Hawkinson's hand up, and then I'll go to Councilor Sheldon.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank Councilor Exner. I appreciate your remarks on that. I echo your concerns that we need more time to really flesh this out and develop a position. However, I would like to propose that we address the immediate question, which is being raised by a number of the citizens who've commented, which is, where does the council stand? And the question is asked from the perspective of, are we behind the mayor or not? And I think the mayor was very clear that he's acting on his own in the interactions and the things he's done up to now. And I think, if nothing else today, I would like to see us be able to go on the record as saying he is on his own, that the council has no position as of now. If nothing else, perhaps it buys us a little, helps us to avoid that perception that somehow the city's behind this, creating some possible liability and other things, so forth. I'd like to make sure that if and when we make that kind of position, that we do it through, that we're well informed and it's legitimate. And that for right now, what a business chooses to do, they have to live with the consequences of that. And they don't have the backing of the city right now or the county or anyone else. They're on their own, and I feel for that. That's a hard spot to be. I used to own a restaurant. My restaurant failed. I know what it's like to fail in a restaurant. So hard times, but I also know what it's like to piss off the OLCC, and it's not something you want to do. So that's one thing I would like to do. The other is to recognize that we do have avenues, and I think in this follow-up meeting that we explore, well, what can we do? What is the right position? I mean, if we fundamentally believe that the rules are discriminatory and unfair, then let's talk about that, and let's talk about what our options are to try to get those changed. I mean, that is a theme that we've heard over and over is let's live within the law, let's work within the law, let's get things changed, and see if we can do it in a way that's safe for everybody from a COVID perspective, but also safe financially from a liability perspective.
Thank you, Counselor. We'll go to Counselor Sheldon and then Counselor Smallwood.
Thank you. Hey, I want to go on the record as saying, when I seconded this, I said I wanted to have the discussion and get something on the record. And I really just want to second what Dawn just said right there, of stating that, in this matter, given the political nature of it all and the fact that we are quickly having this discussion, in this case, maybe a no stance is a correct stance. Mayor Pulliam, you have every right, and I do not disagree. You have every right to state your personal opinion. I think, as I said before, I'm a rule follower, and I believe full-heartedly and have defended the Constitution of the United States for over 20 years. I believe in it fully, and I believe your right to express your opinion is your right, but it's your opinion, and it shouldn't be the basis of this council. And we need to come up with, as a collective organization, come up with what our stance is, what that is. I too have challenges that I question about the whole order itself and its equality to and the potential unfairness to our local businesses compared to what you see when you drive to Gresham. I shouldn't be able to see people standing shoulder to shoulder in Chipotle, but not being able to have a dinner here. I do not disagree with you in many of those stances. But what I do kind of disagree with is that we're getting painted on both a local and national level that this is the stance of the city of Sandy, and that hasn't been addressed yet. And so that's why tonight I think that we need to come up with, and it should be expressed, we have not taken an official stance. I am all for chatting about it next week. And I do fully support that we need to explore what options we have on the table, some of those through David. Because unfortunately, I understand what everyone's saying. These are mandated, but it is my understanding there's also been case law that's come out of Baker City that ruled that this is constitutional. And I may not agree with that, but I am swearing an oath to defend I have sworn an oath to defend the Constitution. I just swore another one to support it. And I may not like the choice that a court makes. I hear those decisions on a regular basis to where I personally disagree with them. But we have a fabric in this country, a way that we can disagree with stuff in a lawful, law and order manner that doesn't elicit and further contribute to further problems down the line. And so I think we really need to come together as a group. I'm new to this, so I don't know whether the workshop, that was something I never thought of, Carl. I don't know if that's the best avenue to do that or if we need to do it in public. But I do think we need to tonight my vote would be to take a no stance and then potentially come back next week and maybe come up with something more formal. And it may not be to agree with the governor's order, but maybe to support that we also don't support breaking the law, and that we can explore other avenues to get that law changed and work as a council with other councils and other leaders to move forward in this, because there's many challenges ahead for all of us. So thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Appreciate that. I'm going to go to Counselor Smallwood and then over to you, Counselor Walker. One thing I do want to state,
My
though,
camera on. I've been waving.
Oh, have you? I'm so sorry, Counselor.
I mean, that's okay. Go, Lori.
Yeah. We'll round it off to you.
I was only doing it after Carl.
One thing I did just want to point to is that I have made clear in all of my media appearances, they don't always make it on camera during my interview, that I am speaking on myself, just for myself, not as our council as a whole. The other is it does get frustrating when, I'll sit there and I'll give a full interview and then a headline will come out that says, Sandy defies the order, because that is, you then go through and you watch the interview, and I'm talking about, these business owners that are talking about defying the order. And I also want to point out that in all of my open letters and my editorial, everything, I point out the possible consequences that could come down on these business owners, and that, it's not the city that's offering any kind of protection. That, I always say, what does the city control and what do we not control? We certainly don't control OLCC. We certainly don't control the Lottery Commission. And we certainly don't control OSHA. So, Councillor Smallwood.
Jeremy, he's just putting you off because we don't want to hear you say how long you've been on council.
Well, I guess I could run around town until I say that.
So a couple things. I think this would be better served in a work session, this conversation, because it's going to be a long conversation, and doing it in this format, I don't think is going to be the most productive. Because I think a lot of you, it sounds like, have a lot of things that you would like to say, and you have varying opinions. My second point is that I've read all the emails that people have sent to City Council. I've also had some personal emails sent to me. I've listened to every single voicemail, and I want to caution all of us that I'm not 100% certain all of those people live here, and I'm not 100% they all live in Oregon. So take that also, and I see you guys shaking your heads, so that's dawned on you as well. So, we also have to realize that there are those voices out there that are very strong on both ends, but we're here to represent the people of the city of Sandy. And in that city are a lot of restaurants and business owners and people who work at those restaurants. I spent my weekend going to restaurants that had opened their doors throughout Clackamas County, and I challenge every one of you, before we come back to have this discussion, to talk to those people who are in those restaurants, who have been out of work, who have been displaced, who've been receiving hardly any money on a weekly basis, going through the holidays, going through a time of year where the one thing that you want to do is supply your family with Christmas presents and activities, and know that they've had no means to do that, and that they can't make their rent, and they can't make their mortgage, and they can't put gas in their car. So while we may have strong feelings in one way or the other, like Don said, these businesses are going out and they're putting their necks out there, right? And risking themselves under no protection. It's 100% liability on their end. And it's a very scary thing. So I challenge each of you to at least go and talk to these guys, because it's very easy to sit there and say, hey, I think this or I think that. And until you've talked to some of these community members and how truly frustrated and frightened they are, how can we make a decision, right? So there's my challenge to you guys before we come up to discuss this in the future.
You're muted, Stan, but I'm assuming you're saying my name.
I'm going to go to Councillor Pete Stold and then Walker. Thank you.
I want to say, I agree with, what I hear across my whole screen, right? Like, from everyone here, I'll go back to Carl. I mean, he started off, with the, I'm a law and order type of guy, right? And so these may not be, official laws or order, but I'm also not one that is asking my neighbors to go break the law. Now, what we come out of this with is what I've heard a lot of you guys already say. And the same thing I was been thinking, and when I've talked to Carl here in the past, or Stan, or Don, or is what can we do from what we have the ability to do as city councilors, right? We're here to help govern our community in certain areas, and not everyone. Councilor Sheldon would know this. Our police chief would know that. There's laws and things that are mandated upon us that we don't get a change inside our city. Now, we don't need to, what kind of liabilities they bring. I think about those same things, right? And so this is why I think the discussion, like Carl saying, hey, bring this up for discussion, having it in a workshop, I think is a great idea. It gives us more, it's so open to the public. It just gives us more able to kind of going back and forth and talking like that and kind of hashing out these things. And that's what we do in workshops. And I think that's we're kind of actually having a little workshop right here with this agenda item in that. We have taken a stance in the past, last spring, in a way, was that we weren't going to break the law. We weren't going to encourage that of breaking the law from a city's point of view. The city was not going to encourage breaking the law, and we've heard a lot about that and got comments in from our lawyer, David, here, and our police chief about some of those things in that aspect of things. And so I think the discussion, formatting back, I also don't necessarily agree with what some of these mandates are, just like most of you here on the screen, what they are. We're frustrated with them, right? And here in Sandy is a lot different than other parts of the state of Oregon, whether it's more metro or more rural. We're in this in-between kind of state. And so our perspectives are a lot different than both sides of those, and for different people and for different reasons. But I do think, our businesses are struggling, but that doesn't mean I'm going to suggest that we, break or defy any of the ordinance or encourage that. But like I've heard already, and I would have suggested, if this came out as a workshop, was, as a council or as a council coming together with a stance or a statement that we may decide as a council to write with the power of the council recommendations to the state legislators and our governor and so forth. Because as a whole, as a collective, we have an enormous amount of power, right? And sometimes we will decide on things that I totally disagree. And I've said this to many of you guys, or maybe you'll disagree on something that comes out of it. But at the end, I'm going to support what we as a collective do, because I think that's the power of our collective and what we're here for. And what's made Sandy so special is that we may disagree to no ends. I mean, we're just left and right, just opposites of things. But when we come out of that, as long as I've been on the council, and this is for Lori, I've been on a long time, it's the fact that we've been able to do that and on some really struggling types of things. And I've really appreciated about that with the council. I hope this council can continue to do that same thing, however that discussion ends. So I think there are some things, I think there's some stuff from David, he can give a lot of guidance as our legal attorney, as well as Jordan, our lead staff person, the person that really helps implement what we as a council decide, because we're here to decide policies for our city. And then it's the staff's responsibility kind of take those policies or things to go forward. So anyways, I agree with what's being said on this. I hear what everyone's saying. It sounds like we're saying a lot of the same things. I think it's some of the messaging that's getting out. And I agree that the messaging getting out there is putting Sandy in some ways a bad light, but then also maybe, from a different point of view on a good light, right? Like, so you got these both sides. And so, but and understanding that, and I'll have to agree, those messages and emails are coming all over from the country. I mean, we had a topic many years ago about pit bulls, right? And I mean, that you think COVID's nasty in the conversation, that was way worse. Don't bring up dogs. It's everyone from New York called my personal cell phone, and it was blowing up before that council meeting. And but the point is, a lot of people try to influence outside of our city to what we want to do, and and how we want to relate, and how we want to hear from our own residents that we hear from, and we hear both sides. So, but I think we can make a statement to our legislator, our governor, of how we as a collective want to make that statement. So anyways, that's all I have.
Thank you, Councillor Peetzold. Councillor Walker.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate the comments that have been said so far. And I would tell you, I have gone out and ate and ordered a bunch of gift cards, ordered meals, talked to the businesses, ordered, presents for the presents my family got, and the donations that we made were all to gift cards from restaurants. So I'm all about supporting those restaurants. And I also talked to them about, what their intention was regarding the Open Oregon thing. And the response they gave me was that they didn't support it. They couldn't support it. They didn't feel they didn't feel like they could, make an enemy of the OLCC and those folks, and that they were, hoping that they could kind of, make it with the way they were doing it. My understanding is one business in Sandy possibly opened up, and that was it. And so what that tells me is that, pardon?
It's not true.
Anyway, that's, so I appreciate that. So my understanding is that one business in Sandy in the city limits opened up, and that was my understanding of it. And the support that we give those folks, let me back up, because I kind of flustered me when you interrupted, Stan. I appreciate that. So how we operate as a council is very important to me, and it is extremely upsetting to hear somebody say that they are speaking just for themselves and yet using the title Mayor of Sandy. That's not speaking for, whether or not, you think it or not, people's perception is that this is the position of Sandy.
Yeah.
And so it's, it's not Stan the man, Stan the insurance salesman. Nope, that has nothing to do with it. You're representing all of us. And that's where I have a real concern that we work together as a team and come up with a position. And then, you were elected to articulate that team position. And even if I lose on something, I'm okay with supporting that position, because that's our position. And this is what you find, whether you're in the Forest Service or you're in any agency or business or work for Adidas or any of those companies, you have to support the decisions made above you, because otherwise it's called going rogue, and it doesn't go very well. And going rogue gets a lot of folks in trouble and gets bad reputations, and that's not what we want for our town and our council, especially starting off like this. So what I'm concerned about is that what happens in the next 2 weeks. I'm totally fine if you said, well, I'm gonna, lay it low. I know that you're doing this because you want to run for governor and you want to run for higher office, and this gets your name out there. But I feel like it's at the expense of us as a council and us as a city and our reputation. And that hurts, because I want you to be successful. I really do. But I don't see that this approach to doing this is helping us. I think it's coming at the cost of us. I'm concerned for those businesses, and I'm also concerned for how we operate as a council. So, using your analogy that you're just speaking for yourself, then logically all of us could go out there on Facebook and everywhere else and start having all sorts of opinions and throwing shade or whatever. And you all don't like that before I was on the council, so I'm pretty sure you don't want me to be doing that when I get on the council. So, and I don't want to. That's not how a council is supposed to work. It's not how a board works, a team works, or anything like that. We have to support each other even when we disagree with each other. And if we are taking the time to think through a position, we need to say that no comment until then. When we're talking to the Newsweek and the Fox News, when my mother-in-law is seeing, Sandy, the city of Sandy on Fox News in Twin Falls, Idaho, it's not because they're interviewing Stan the man. They're interviewing the position of Sandy. So, regardless of whether-
Counselor, first, I'd appreciate no nicknames. I'd appreciate no nicknames, Counselor. I use your title and your last name when I address you. I'd appreciate that same
Okay.
respect. Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
well, I respect that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry you were insulted. I didn't mean to insult you. What I'm trying to, let me try to say my point in a different way than Mayor Pulliam. What I'm trying to say is that when these national media are interviewing our mayor, they're interviewing them to represent our city, whether or not that person is representing their own. They're not interviewing them to listen to their personal opinion. They're interviewing them as our city representative. They are. Otherwise, they wouldn't be calling on you. So
Counselor,
really
Counselor, no mayor's
I
been
don't
on national television. No mayor's been on national television from this community. So I don't think they're just interviewing me because I happen to be
Okay.
the mayor of the city of Sandy. They're
I
interviewing me
appreciate-
because
yeah,
I'm
I
a
appreciate-
leader of this community and of a movement.
You know, I've sat here and listened to you for a long time and the other folks. And so I'd really appreciate it if I could say what I'm going to say.
And I will.
Not get interrupted
I
because it's
will.
really,
But I also haven't impeded you either in your character while you were
Okay.
speaking. Like you
as I
have
said,
to.
I apologized for, referring to you individually by your first name. So the other point, though, is what I said is that, again, my concern is what happens in the next 2 weeks. What other, mischief is there to be gotten to as far as trying to make national news and make more, whatever with the challenging the state government. I'm concerned that that if we haven't had a chance to kind of decide and discuss and decide on this, that we not go out there and continue to advocate a position that we really haven't decided on. It would be very irresponsible for any of us to do that, I think. The other thing is that I think I would like a little bit input from David. And what Council Hawkinson and Sheldon brought up was that this has been settled in other, there was legal challenges and that this has been settled, and that my understanding that I heard from them is that we cannot legally advocate overthrowing these orders or mandates or whatever you call them. I'd like to hear from David on that. And then finally, again, I think it's nice to have a workshop about it so we have the ability to discuss this, but I definitely think it's time for this council to make a decision on this. Not, I get that it's not going to happen tonight, and that's fine, but at the next meeting, we need to have a decision on this. And I'm going to encourage a lot of the residents, because like you said, Lori, a lot of these people are, Council Smallwood, I'll get used to this. Please, I apologize. I'm new at this. Council Smallwood, I appreciate the fact that a lot of those folks are out of town. And even a lot of the folks that post on Facebook are out of state, out of town. And what I would like to point out is that we have a policy in place for this city council that they will not take on controversial topics that do not directly affect our residents. And you can make a statement, you could make a case that, obviously our restaurants and health clubs are directly affected by this. But I think it's important to kind of keep it local and keep our solutions local so that we're not advocating. There's a reason why we haven't heard from, Lake Oswego or Astoria or Hillsborough or all those other mayors and city councils out there. They haven't, come out there leading the charge, because I think there's some consequences to that I'm concerned about. So I am concerned about what happens in the meantime if we can all agree to kind of lay low until we have a chance to decide on this. Thank you. And I apologize again, Mayor Pulliam, for.
It's not, and by the way, just for the record, you impeded me by, referencing motives that you think that I have, by referencing two nicknames for me on different occasions. It's not that you just called me Stan. It was the manner in which you addressed me and spoke to me that I took difference with, Councilor Walker.
I apologize. My apologies.
Was that me, Stan?
Smallwood.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
then
Yeah. So I was just going to say, yeah, Kathleen, it's okay to call us by our first names. So that's perfectly all right. Because that's how I am going to address most of you.
Fine. It's the rest of them.
Yeah. But Kathleen, I think to your point, what I'm hearing you say is that you're wanting to quelch Stan and his conversations that he's having with Open Oregon and local groups, the media attention that has gotten. As he said earlier, and I support this 100%, and you do see this in city councils, and I think if you look at, I will use an example of Joanne Hardesty. Unfortunately, as elected officials, we do not lose our First Amendment rights. We all still have freedom of speech. We all still have freedom of expression. And you actually can, if you wanted to go out there and jump on a cause and say that I am a city council member at the city of Sandy, that doesn't mean that you represent Sandy, as long as you put that clause in there that you're speaking for yourself. You do still have that right. And what I'm hearing you say is that you're wanting Stan to take a step back and step down from his agenda. And you can ask him to do that, but this council cannot make him do that. And because he still has that right as an individual.
David, you've been referenced, and then we'll go to Councilor Exner.
I just wanted to make sure everybody got a chance to speak and you didn't have me jump in too early. So I think, where we started tonight was some of this and my motives for sort of maybe thinking about this being a topic at a work session or at a future meeting is really stemming from what, how broad this discussion is. And that's a good thing. I don't mean to suggest you shouldn't be talking about this. I absolutely think you should. I think these are the kind of topics, particularly in a time like this, that's absolutely appropriate to talk about. It's getting your hands around it. There's a lot of issues here. And so I appreciate the comments. I think it is something that if we put it into a work session format at the next meeting, perhaps Jordan and I and staff can talk. I would also say to counselors, and I'll get to some specific points here in a second, but just while I have it in my mind, that you consider putting things into staff in advance of that, things that you might like to see ultimately council do, in 2 weeks hence, what that would look like. And that I think would help frame that discussion even better. So to a couple of the points that were made. So first of all, I think, there's this line, and certainly it is true. I think the example of maybe Stan, obviously, Councilor Mayor Pulliam is one example. I had the same thought in terms of Joanne Hardesty in Portland, two very vocal people, right? That's their style, that's their prerogative. And by and large, that is not legally problematic, right? Obviously, from a policy and I'll say political, maybe with a small p, that can be very controversial. And that's something really where, you look to your council rules, you look to, the tenor of the group, such as it is. You guys are brand new in many ways together. I think it's fair to say, you would expect, I think often counselors do expect that there is, a unified voice on big issues like this. And that, somebody who's kind of speaking outside of that or taking a very different tact is going, rogue. That's fair. But I think that is also part of the process. And I think what it comes back to is sort of, at the risk of sounding a little too academic here, Justice Scalia, whether you liked him or not, whether you're familiar with him or not, was a Supreme Court justice, he talked about how the sort of, these are sort of, a lot of this is expression and speech issues, and the way in this country that we often address those is with more speech, additional speech. And so I think, maybe what Councilor Walker is saying is that she'd ideally not like it to become this sort of, echo cacophony of elected officials saying their, individual 2 cents on this, and to try to get something that is more unified. And that's laudable. But, at the same time, I think that is, certainly a possibility where each of you would come out with sort of your own take on this. And, to the legal issue, there have been in Oregon this past summer, there was a case that It started in Eastern Oregon, I believe in Baker City. Some churches challenged what was then the effective executive order. Technically, it's not in effect anymore. It's been superseded. That ultimately made its way to the Supreme Court of Oregon. And the Supreme Court, I think not surprisingly, looked at the governor's authority under state law and said, yes, she has the authority to issue executive orders under this health emergency. That power has essentially been delegated to her by the legislature through that law. So now, at the same time, there are other people, just as those churches did, and they lost in that case, but with the current order that's in place now, I know a coalition of restaurant groups that are challenging that order, doing that in federal court. These are all brand new, it's brand new territory, really. I mean, this is not something where we can, as lawyers, go to the shelf, or, proverbially, or go on our computer and look at all this case law that, is tidy and summarizes all this. As I said, COVID time, I think it was a month or two ago, we had a discussion about the freeze and the city's response to that. And I have been cautioning the city and the council all along. I don't think there's been a great deal of real council enthusiasm for doing something in a affirmative way that would be against any of the executive orders. But there's certainly been questions about it, and we talked about that in terms of enforcement and for the freeze and potentially police going to people's houses during Thanksgiving. And our take on that was really it's enforcement in many ways like any other, and Sandy PD didn't have to approach that in any way other than they might with other enforcement matters. It didn't require them to do anything extraordinary, basically. So I think to the point of as far as this restaurant issue goes, there is a challenge pushing back against that. A court could decide, hey, wait, in this case, maybe the governor's reliance on the facts she's relying on, whatever those are, whether you agree with them or not, maybe those don't sort of clear that relatively modest bar that would support her authority in this case. That's possible. Like I said, we just don't have a lot of guidance to go on. But my take has been, I think pretty consistent with most of my colleagues, whether they're county council or city attorneys, that it's really getting back to maybe a bigger issue that some of you talked about, like what's within your domain, what's within your jurisdiction and what isn't. And I don't think it would be wise for the city to be going and saying, let's say, having the city council issue a declaration, a majority of you, or a resolution for that matter, that would say, we're instructing the police to not enforce the order, something along those lines. That I think you'd be looking at the city having some exposure, the city as an entity having some exposure there. But I certainly don't think the city, and I want to make this clear for the record as well, there's a number of things here. That's why I think it'll be good to collect our thoughts in a work session. But I don't think the city has any legal exposure as a result of any statement. From what I've read, from what I've understood, Mayor Pulliam is on his own essentially in this, and he's, I think, as I've read and heard, done a pretty good job of saying that. I think that's right. It often isn't going to get reported because that's, it doesn't get the clicks, right, and the hits. But if the council had taken a position, I think the fact that there is no position from a legal point of view, is what allows me to feel very legally comfortable with where you are. The sort of policy behind it, how you feel about it in terms of this, esprit de corps and what it should be, I respect all that. And that is largely some of those issues that you kind of get to wrestle with as elected officials. But if the desire were, and I think that's reasonable, whether that's tonight or I think maybe it would be at your subsequent meeting, that the council come out with as best it can, at least a majority of you having adoption of something that would say, perhaps I'm just really kind of, listening here tonight and kind of picking out a few of these things, trying to determine where there may be consensus, but some concerns about the governor's order, how it is affecting maybe belief that it might not be fair, or at least aspects of it. However, ultimately respecting it and recognizing that the city as an entity, as an organization, will follow it. That makes sense. And then you can point to something like that and say, this is the city's position. Stan, as an elected official, may have a different position. That's okay. Councillor Hokanson is a new, he may, you can have that kind of diversity of perspective. But I think unless and until the city council or a majority of the city council adopts something, I don't think there is any city position, right? And you, I think, get to sort of decide whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Legally, that doesn't bother me because it means that you really haven't done anything that would be contrary to one of the executive orders. So that's a lot of lawyer talk there, but I hope that at least answers some of that.
I think that does help. And I'm all for, council doing what Councillor Sheldon suggested, which is kind of a no stance until we're able to have such a work session. I'm all, whatever. No matter where our council as a united body, and you may not like this, I try to be forthright. Just let people know where I'm at, is no matter where our council is on this issue, and I look forward to a council position wherever it lands. I think we should have this discussion to come down, but I will continue to speak my piece. I will be, I'm sure I'll be asked about our council position being different than mine, because it's a pretty darn good question to ask if you're a reporter wanting to get somebody on the record. And I'll be clear that I only speak as myself as mayor of Sandy, because yes, that is still my position. I was still elected to that. Other people should run for that if that's what they want to be. But I will be, I'm an outspoken person, and I'm an outspoken. I believe people need results out of their leaders, and that's who I am. So that said, I'm all for taking a vote tonight on whatever you guys want to take a vote on. I'm hearing, I always try to take these moments to take the collective of what I hear. I am hearing that from several, that we want to take maybe a position of no stance tonight, but with a commitment to revisiting the issue at our very next meeting at our work session. That's what I'm taking from this. I see Councillor Exner has a hand up. I'll go to Councillor Exner, but that's the kind of the way I'm looking to take this conversation. Unless somebody wants to speak out on a different direction, you of course have the right to do so. Councillor Exner. And then I see you down there, Councillor Peetzel.
Boy, a lot of conversation has happened since I raised my hand. So I'm going to try to just be succinct and maybe come up to a summary. I think in terms of something that is very controversial and very self-decisional, I think that there is going to have to be a realization that we may not come up with a consensus, and that there are enough divergent opinions here that we won't be able to come up with a decision. I think that's something that I'm kind of thinking about in the back of my mind is right now is that there's some people that have strong opinions about this. I don't know if you've done this or not, but for some reason that people are looking tonight, and I don't know, I think I counted there were 7 comments about what's going on tonight. People are watching this thing and thinking about what that means. And some are not so good, and some are very advocative of what we've been talking about tonight. So there's that. Secondly, I really think that we need to come up with some sort of wise conversation. I think my statement earlier aside, I think it would be very helpful for our citizens in Sandy within the city limits that if we come up with a statement that here is what we feel strongly about. And in democracy, it's not about what we disagree in. What we disagree in is we're not going to make a decision about, but it's what we agree about that makes that so powerful. So I think that if we can come up with 1, 2, 3, 5, whatever it is, statements that all of us can agree to, man, what a powerful statement that would be. And I would spend all night long in a workshop to make that happen if that was what it took. Thirdly, I think I really agree with Dave's statement that as far as a workshop coming up at the next meeting, I think if we all made a comment or two or statements about what we thought we wanted to see out of that conversation, I think that would really be helpful. I personally have had about 5 things that I was going to talk about tonight that I wanted to see us respond to. And there are things like, you know, what the governor's statements have been and our orders are, just how in some cases are very ineffective. And maybe some are very effective. I think we need to make a statement about how we feel for our businesses. I think that's really crucial. But I think that has to be thought through, and I think we can't do that tonight. If somebody wants to make a motion that we obey the rules tonight, we obey the laws, I'll put my hand up and say, sure, I'll do that. But I think that's already something that we live by right now. You know, 3 of you just swore tonight. 2 years ago, I swore to do the same thing. I want to obey the rules. And I think that nobody here would say anything different. So I suggest that we move this conversation to conclude and come up with a statement discussion in the next meeting in a workshop, and then followed by a decision in council chambers or make a decision in the workshop. They're all followed by people, and it's a place for all of us to have an open discussion anyway. So, but I think it's really important that we try. So with that, I'm going to say I'm done.
So was that a motion before I go to Councilor Peetzold? Was that a motion to put it on our work session?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
And it'll be discussion
so
for make a decision.
Okay, we'll look for a second, but first we'll go to Councilor Peetzold.
Yeah, I just want to think, I think we're a lot closer than we all think. I think we're because of being, I don't want to say surprised, because we weren't surprised by, this topic, but just not prepared, I guess, is we are coming at this from a lot of different angles. And so I appreciate David's comments. I really do. I always appreciate having him here with us because he keeps us from being wasting a lot of city money on things that we can, get sued on or whatever else. And so I do appreciate those, David. But like Councilor Sheldon had said, maybe not make a decision. Maybe the decision is not to make the decision on that. And so I appreciate that. I do think that it does need to be in a more thought out work session at the next work session. And I do agree with, the comment of putting together some things that we can send to Jordan and staff to be able to kind of put together, because we all have our own emotions a part of this. And I think that's something that we should all identify as well, no matter what side we sit on, but also thoughtfully put through to this. So I would second the motion that Carl had said to bring this at a work session with those things that we talked about in mind, keeping, ideas and writing those down and getting them to staff early so that they can kind of put things together for us and think out and kind of put something together that wouldn't be cast in stone, but that we could then massage around, because there's a lot of the city-ese, legalese in statements that can be made. So that would be mine, would be to second that.
We have a motion on the floor and a second by Councilor Peetzold. All those in favor signify by saying aye or give me a thumbs up. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, a nay or a thumbs down. Motion carries. All right, thank you. Moving forward on our agenda, we are to the report from the city manager. Jordan.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Again, congratulations to our new city councilors. Looking forward to working with you and really happy to see you up there. And congratulations. Here we are in 2021. I know we all been looking forward to flipping that calendar and starting this new year. And one of the pleasures that we have, especially with the new council, but at the start of the year, is goal setting. So I'm actually really looking forward to the goal setting coming up this month and in February. Right off the bat, some great discussion and debates going on at council about policy. And I think what we've sort of planned out for the goal setting will be very beneficial given, the new council and all the projects and issues ahead of this council here in this year and throughout your terms. So I know many of you have already spoken with the facilitator, Sarah Singer, or have that scheduled. We're excited to have her on board and helping us with this goal setting series, January 26th and the 27th. Those evenings will be, I think, 3 hours apiece, and then followed by a meeting in February, I think on the 13th, on that Saturday. So thanks again for all your flexibility in helping us schedule those sessions. I think they'll be well worth the time commitment for this council to put in. The thing that we are trying to still pin down, and again, trying to fit this within this month of already busy schedules, is that date for a tour. We talked about doing a tour of the wastewater treatment facility, the community campus, and Roslyn Lake. It's probably a couple hour tour that, of course, we'll probably need a caravan and, hopefully gets a nice weather window to walk around the sites. We did sort of the whole doodle polling to see what the availability was for goal setting and kind of used up those dates. So we're sort of scraping bottom now, and we could talk about that a little bit right now and what your availability might be. January 16th is a Saturday. I think a lot of you were available that maybe we could do over the lunch hour. It's again another Saturday, but I think it's a long weekend Saturday. We can look at maybe doing something, before a council meeting, like a 3 to 5, before the February 1st council meeting as an option, or sometime during the week of, I think, January 18th, do it either the 20th, the 21st, or 22nd. That would be a Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. Again, we want daylight. So, as much as it's hard to ask with, most of you working, to make your day shorter and take time off to do this, we either have the weekend or bringing flashlights this time of year if we do it past 5 o'clock. So I'm happy to continue to work with this. Jeff and I can work with the mayor and the rest of you in figuring out schedules for this and propose some dates, or we could talk about tonight. But I was going to throw out that January 16th date as an option. I know not everyone had that available, but if somehow we can make that work, if there's a time during that day that we can make that work. And then if anyone else has any other ideas, I'm happy to hear them, or any preferences one way or the other. All right, we'll send out some dates and polls and try to figure this out. I think it would be worth the time. I mean, we will be seeing each other, virtually a lot coming up. But I think that the opportunity to do some in-person touring, obviously COVID protocols and all that, but being in person and having those conversations about these important projects would be pretty valuable for us. I did mention January 19th that week. There is a holiday on the 18th, so the 19th would be the next meeting. And so just something to note, we were just talking about the schedule and the work session. It would be a Tuesday that evening for your schedule, for your calendars, Tuesday, January 19th. And we did have something already scheduled for that work session, but we can move things around now to get that the COVID conversation, the governor's executive orders on the agenda. And then just another last reminder, if you're interested in the City Day at the Capitol, the legislative session is going to kick off here soon. Let Jeff know. We're happy to register you through LLC, or you can do that on your own. But I think it's important for the City of Sandy to have a seat at that virtual table. We've drafted up a legislative ask for our wastewater project. I think we've identified about 15 million that we can basically use, right off the bat for our collection system work and our treatment plant. So if you are able to make that, I think it's on the 22nd of January. That would be great. Just let us know. We'll sign you up. With that, again, congratulations to all the council. Looking forward to working with you, and Happy New Year.
Thank you, Jordan. With that, I will just go with council and committee reports through how I see people on my screen tonight. I will say, as far as committee assignments go, I'm waiting to put those out until after our goal setting, where we get a feel for how everybody feels and where their interests are in the different facets of our city. And I just, we're all still getting to know each other. I'd hate to develop these committee assignments without having a good feel for where individual counselors want to be. With that, we'll start with Counselor Don Hawkinson.
Well, hey, so that means I don't have a whole lot of reports for all my committees right now, but
hey, you're going to get the pool soon, sir.
that's okay. I look forward to these tours. I look forward to working with you. Obviously tonight, little close to home, but I think anything talking about COVID is going to be a little emotional, and because it's affected all of us in a whole lot of different ways. So, so I appreciate everybody's willingness to talk about it, and I think we'll get to a good position as we get to know each other. So anyway, I look forward to the goal setting. I had my meeting with Sarah, and my first comment to her was a full disclosure that I'm a facilitator, and I would try my best not to undermine what she's trying to do or going to do. So anyway, she really put me at ease. I think she'll be great. So thanks. That's it for tonight.
Thank you. Counselor Sheldon, you're on the other side of me here tonight.
Hey, no worries. I obviously have no.
Well, you're always that same position. So I start with that, and then I'll go to you, sir.
Obviously, I have no report. So thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Walker.
I have no reports. I do have a question that I'm getting from the public about when City Hall will be opening up in the library and for more full services. So I told them I would ask at the City Council meeting.
Great question. We periodically bring this up with the council about what the plans are and what we're watching with the library. With the governor's new sort of tiered structure is something that we're now considering with other communities, is what level would we need to drop in to feel comfortable in opening back up to the public. And then with regards to City Hall, our same sort of message that we've had all along. We've been open, by appointment and things like that, drop-offs, obviously. Given the restrictions on meeting in person and all that, we're obviously not having conference rooms open or having the city council chambers being occupied by you all and the public, just given the, difficulties of getting people in there within 6 feet or separated by 6 feet and all that. Beyond that, there isn't like a set date. We're just going to continue to monitor and watch and see where the county's going to move. And I think we're going to just have to pick one of those levels, right? If it's moderate level or low, when we feel comfortable that we can have enough occupancy in the things like the library or City Hall and maintain our distances. The police station was open for a period of time to the public. They had the glass and all that, the separating. All our facilities are ready to go. We have the germ barriers, we have masks for the public and all staff. So we can flip that switch pretty easily whenever, we feel comfortable. I'm always happy to hear input too from the city council when you feel, to make that move. There's a few cities obviously in the county and the rest of the state that, have maintained their city halls open to the public, but most are still, doing what we're doing, open by appointment and not holding meetings in person.
And this person was asking with, their perception was that it was the city's, what was being said about, reopening restaurants and all that was the city's position, and but yet they weren't opening their own offices. That was the comment that was stated to me. So it's just something to keep in our minds when we move forward in the next meeting and have that discussion.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Nothing else.
Counselor Lori Smollett.
All right. Not a whole lot to report other than this will be right up your alley, Kathleen. The owner at Mount Hood Impact Jiu-Jitsu is holding a Tickle Creek Trail cleanup of some of the homeless camps this Saturday. That's the 9th, and it starts at noon. And you can show your interest. He's got a Facebook page for it. So again, that's this Saturday, the 9th at noon, to clean up some of the homeless camps back there. So I'm going to do my best to be there. I've hit the interest button, and I've got a couple other people who are going to be there. So great activity if you guys are available.
Outstanding. Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Exner.
Yeah, I have a few things I have to report, but I wanted to just kind of state that I look forward to working with everybody on this council. I'm not the oldest person on the council. Sorry, I have to admit that Jeremy's the older fellow of the bunch, but in terms of the age, I think I come up pretty high on the list in terms of old man of the world. But I do have a bad habit of saying things that I just feel. But I also try to be a conciliator. So I'm going to try to figure out a compromise, and that's probably, some people have said that's not good for me, but I really want to assume positive intent. And I think that if we can all be on the page of what's good for Sandy, we should go there. And I know I've had some conversations just recently that confirmed that with several of the counselors. And I know I haven't had all conversations yet with everybody, but thank you for being so interested and just jumping right into it right off. Pretty amazing. I don't think that has happened in other brand new counselors. So congratulations to being in the water right off above your head too. Some reports. Tree Code Committee, which some of the new counselors may or may not know about. We're starting that back up again. I got a note from Emily that they want to start looking at some of that code again in the middle of the month. So we'll be going back at that one. Hopefully we'll get you a report and a recommendation sometime soon on that. Another thing, for those who are new, I represent the Art Commission, and as a liaison, we've pretty much dismantled it. We stopped meeting and we're down to 2 seats, one of which will expire here, I think just did expire. So we're down to 1 person on the commission out of 7. So we need to fill those back up again. I look forward to advocating for that, whether I'm on that committee or not. But I do think there's some questions about how that's structured that might be very well put. I've not met with, is it Sarah, yet about the goal setting, but I think I'm doing that on Wednesday. I intend to put that on one of my lists of goals. I think we need to talk a little bit about how the Art Commission is, and we've got kind of a bad rap there for a bit. So I'm looking forward to straightening some of that out. Other than that, I look forward to working with everybody. And that's it for me. Oh, one last thing. 16th is good for me. If you're talking about meeting just before the council meeting on any nights, I just looked it all up, and the 19th, sunset is at 4:49. I don't think we're gonna make it before council meeting with sunlight. So it may have to be a Saturday. Anyway, I'm open on Saturday, 16th. And I'm done then.
Thank you, Counselor. Council President Pete Zold.
Hi, yeah, thanks. Yeah, I just want to say I'm excited to get going with this new council. Just like other councils, each one of you bring a different perspective, a different experience, expertise in different ways. And that was the same with the council that has just, the 3 members have just left. And so they had their unique ways, and you don't need to be the same as they are. And that's exciting because we'll have different avenues and different ways to go through things and things we've never thought of before, and different people in the community that are communicating to you that are different than that we're communicating to them. And so that's exciting. So I look forward to those discussions and those ideas that coming forward. Is what makes the council kind of exciting as well over time. The econ meeting this week is going to be canceled. I suggested as the chair to cancel it, as a lot has been going on. And one of the things is we put a pretty cool thing at our last council meeting in the fact of using urban renewal money there to do shelters for our restaurants and gyms out there. And David has been slammed, and he took a week off, but he's been slammed. And I got to go around and talk to some of the businesses, and they are just excited. And so I got a lot of emails back from we sent out an email saying, you know, the meeting will be canceled. It was supposed to be Wednesday. But our goal is to get that stuff processed as fast as possible. And I think that's one of the things that this council can do in all this turmoil about COVID and everything we're thinking, is thinking of ways that we can help our businesses out. And that was one of them, right? And then we have to act quickly. And so I said, instead of spending your time and having this meeting, let's spend our time getting these businesses processed and design work and getting going, because time is of the essence in this. And not only that, I think it's going to be a great look for our community going forward. Tickle Creek Trail, I went on a run and on New Year's Day. We do this every year. Last year should have been a symbol, because we took out the picture for New Year's Day last year. We all looked like drowned rats. And that's how 2020 started. And it was like the whole year, right? So this year was a little bit better after the run. Always exciting, always fun. We have a beautiful, very beautiful trail, and always like to brag about that on council and to other people that don't even know about it, that live right next door or maybe close by. The governor also changed some stuff on December 23rd with schools in our state and how the metrics will work for them. And so right now, a lot of school districts all over are figuring out what that will mean for them as they will decide on when they will bring students back into their schools and at what timings. So that those policies change there. And so that's something to think about as going forward, and maybe even when we start opening up our city buildings as well. And for the public, but that will be a discussion for another time. But I think the 16th would work for me. I don't know if it works for everybody else, but I do like the idea of being in the daylight. I also work, as some of you others do as well. So doing it during a normal working day is very hard for me to get there. But you know, on Saturday or even the community campus, last time we did it with new counselors, we did do it at night in the dark, but we were also inside looking at the building and the bones of the building and that type of thing, and some of those. So maybe it can be split up and not try to do it all in one day. Normally we do the other ones in the summertime, but I understand we want to show our new counselors what we'll be doing for our next 2 years right away. So looking forward to goal setting, but that's all I have.
Thank you, Counselor. A short report for me tonight. First, as I would just say, if we can open up portions of our city hall in a safe manner for our neighbors who need to access our city resources, I'm all for it. As soon as I have council support for such an item to give direction to staff, I totally advocate for that. You know, our neighbors pay taxes for a service. They deserve to get the service. As long as we can provide that to them in a safe manner, we certainly should. But there's also, I think, a difference between employees and how they're able to do their jobs remotely versus other industries. And so obviously finding a balance that, between access from the public as well as just a recognition of jobs that can be done in a safe manner from the privacy of one's home, I'm all for. So the only, other than that, the only report I came in to say tonight is that I just want to make sure it's clear that I stand with all of our Main Street small businesses and their employees. Those that have decided not to open, those who have made the courageous decision to fight for their business when they're up against it and they really don't have any other avenue or move to open up and to try to provide jobs for their employees and to be able to pay the bank in many ways and put food on the plate on their table. So everybody that's just, I just continue to not understand those that are okay packing them into big box stores. We'll fight all day long if a Walmart wants to come to town, but we're okay looking the other way and being passive when our Main Street locally owned small businesses are just getting it stuck to them like they are. I just think it's a travesty. I don't understand those that run for elected office if they're not going to stand up and be counted for and defend their community and their residents and their small business owners that are enormous stakeholders. I do get a little nervous when I hear just kind of this feeling that our small business owners are not a major stakeholder in this community. They employ our neighbors, they pay taxes, they pay fees, they pay all kinds of things that are needed for infrastructure projects to quality of life. And as leaders, they deserve results out of us, especially when they've been put out of business and had the hardships put in front of them like they have over the last year. So with that, just thank you everyone for not just your time tonight, but for your willingness to serve on council. And I look forward to developing a relationship with every single one of you and accomplishing some very big things in the 2 years ahead. With that, I will adjourn tonight's city council meeting. Thank you everybody, and congratulations to those of you that swore in tonight.
Bye. Have a good night.
Thank you.